Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is J.R. Moore coming to you live from deep in the mountains of the Missouri Ozarks. On Friday, the 12th day of January, year of our Lord 2018, welcome to John Moore Show. Prepper tip of the day. I believe every adult, actually teenager in this country, should work on getting all the following skills. First of all, the ability to drive any motor vehicle. That would mean standard transmission as well as automatic transmission. There's an old saying, it's quite true. If you don't want your automobile stolen in the ghetto, just all you need is a standard transmission automobile, and it won't be stolen because almost nobody in the ghetto can drive a standard transmission automobile or truck. Ride ATVs, ride motorcycles, at least one flying lesson so you get some elementary understanding of how a aircraft works. Paddle a canoe, sail a sailboat. All those things. You should have all those skills. I think it's pretty basic. Myself, other people may not feel that way. Ride a bicycle. Can everybody ride a bicycle? All those things. That's your prepper tip of the day. We're patiently in the green room, my friend Tom Berryhill. Tom is a gentleman who began a quest long ago to become a licensed ham radio operator. That was more than half a century ago. In the meantime, he's become an accomplished radio frequency engineer, electronics engineer, and we're going to be talking about emergency survival communications. Good morning, Tom.
Hi, John. Good morning. And I like those prepper tips. I agree with all of that.
Well, thank you, sir. We neglected yesterday. It was the second Thursday, and we should have picked a postcard for the energy cleaner promotion. So I went ahead and done that. I reached into the envelope this morning, and I pulled out a card, and it's from Thea, area code 785. Thea, I will be in touch with you today and let you know that your postcard was drawn. And you can get an energy cleaner for $215. With $200 of that going to Republic Broadcasting as part of our support for Republic Broadcasting. Okay, Tom, we're into the new year. We have a ham radio event coming up here in Viburnum in a couple of months, I believe March, if I'm not mistaken. People are thinking about their life in the past, thinking about what they want it to be in the future. And frequently, not all the time, but frequently they'll consider learning a new skill or starting a new hobby, won't they, sir?
Oh, yeah, John. And, of course, ham radio is a very good skill to acquire. It's easier than ever before. In the old days, we had to learn a lot of technical things and learn Morse code and all that, but that's no longer required. And the tests have been simplified. It's easy to prepare.
It is. So it's something to consider. I know just coming in from the outside, it can be daunting. Anything that involves technology can be daunting, but that's just the observations of an outsider. The technical part of it is that you need to know these days is very simplistic, isn't it?
Yes, it is, John. And any task can be broken down into small increments that are easy to learn and pick up quickly. So I don't think anybody should be put off by the technical requirements and issues like that. I mean, many young people that, in fact, sometimes the younger people pick it up quick because they have no fear of it. They just go right in and start working at it. I think most people could pick up these skills with just a little bit of self-study and maybe a bit of help from somebody who's already been there. I think within maybe a month to 6 weeks, they'd be ready to take that test, and they would pass it on their first try.
I believe so. Absolutely. So it's something to consider, something to do, and we do encourage people to do this and move forward. Learning a new skill that's fun, that you'll meet new, interesting people. And something that comes up a lot, Tom, in the work I do, is people are asking, in fact, this came up earlier this week, how do I find people of like mind? You hear that a lot yourself, don't you, sir?
Hear it all the time, yes.
Yep. And this is one way to do it. The beginning premise of ham radio when it began 70-something years ago, more like 80 years ago, I guess, from the Federal Communications Commission, was to establish a way for civilians to get the training and get the equipment to help the public officials in the event of an emergency. So by definition, the whole foundational basis of ham radio is people that are interested in being prepared to deal with emergencies, isn't it, Tom?
Yes, that's right. And it started way longer than 80 years ago, John. This would be around the time when Marconi first started his wireless experiments. People read about this in newspapers, and a lot of experimenters that were interested in electrical apparatus, things like this, started building their own sets. And they got on the air. Their range wasn't very far. They'd go several miles, and they quickly learned how to increase those ranges. And before long, what happened was all of the maritime traffic, the commercial traffic, and the ham operators were all jammed into the same wavelength. They didn't really go by frequency in those days. They went by wavelength, and everybody was operating basically in the same space, and it was really, really bad news. So early on, and I don't know the exact date, but the Federal Radio Commission started, and that was before the FCC came in I believe it was about 1934, because the Communications Act of 1934 is still in effect and has been amended many times over the years, but that's when the FCC started. So prior to that, there was quite a bit of activity, and what they basically did is they took the ham radio operators, and they were operating on very long wavelengths below the AM radio band, so they were below 500 kilohertz, and they would get some pretty good range at those in those bands. But what the authorities did is they moved all the experimenters and the ham radio operators to 200 meters and above. That was getting into the shortwave spectrum. They considered that a wasteland. It was useless. Nobody wanted it. Only to find out the ham operators discovered that the higher they went, the farther the signals would go with very little effort and very little power. So, of course, once the authorities saw what the ham radio operators were doing, they came back in and grabbed all of it, and then they sliced up that spectrum, and they gave the ham operators specific frequency bands that are still they're still in effect to this day, and they've added, by international law, several new bands were added in the last 25 or 30 years. So all those frequency bands are intact and ready to be used by anybody that studies and takes the test and obtains their ham radio operator license. They will be issued a call sign, and they're ready to go. They can get on and start talking to people. They might want to talk locally to their friends and kind of figure out how it all works, and then advance on from there. You will need to get the next higher license. The entry-level license is a technician class, and you might want to then study and go on to the general class, which would then allow you to operate in the shortwave spectrum. So the technician class allows you to use VHF and UHF frequencies. That will give you some pretty good coverage, but more on a local and a regional basis, whereas the shortwave will allow you to talk worldwide. And in all cases, the ham operators can use 1.5 kilowatts of power maximum. That's peak power, and it has tremendous range.
That's 1,500 watts, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And but John, most ham operators operate with very low power. In fact, my interest is in very low power. It's called QRP, and the ham operators use what's called Q signals, and these are carryover from the old telegrapher days, where they mainly on maritime traffic, they used Q signals, and different Q signals would tell it was an abbreviated way because everything was done by Morse code, so the less you had to send, the faster the communications took place. So they used Q signals, and QRP meant lower your power, and QRO meant raise your power. So the ham operators picked up on this QRP, and they just call it QRP radios, which are typically 5 watts or less. And I have communicated, well, back when I first got started in the late 60s, that was one of the best sunspot cycles ever, and I first got on the air right at the peak, and I'm telling you, it took very, very tiny bits of power to transmit worldwide. I remember building a small transmitter. It had 2 transistors, and it ran on 9-volt radio, the small rectangular 9-volt battery. I hooked 2 of those batteries together to get more current, and I powered that transmitter. And, John, one of my first contacts was with a gentleman in the Philippines, and he said I was booming in like I was down the street. So that's what you could do with, and that was, I think that transmitter was 1.5 watts of power. It was very, very low power. And it was very effective.
Right, a friend of mine, he was our commo NCO with Special Forces on our A team. He transmitted from St. Louis, Missouri to Italy with 0.5 watt. And he was very proud of that.
He should be. I mean, it does take a little bit more skill to do that because there's so many people running higher power. But the majority of the communications on the HF bands is at about the 100 watt level. Most of the transceivers and the radio equipment sold today has an output power of approximately 100 watts, and most of the ham operators purchase those radios and they just operate them at the 100 watt level. And even with that, you could talk anywhere in the country, crystal clear, really effective communications at 100 watts. So you don't usually need more than that. I like to build some of my own equipment and small, compact, portable radios to use out in the field, and that's a big interest of mine. So I typically work with much smaller power levels, and it does add a challenge, but it is kind of interesting, and it's a whole nother hobby within the hobby. So there's quite a few people interested in that, and that's something that I've pursued over the years.
Interesting stuff. If you've got a question or comment about emergency communications, give us a call at 800-313-9443. As my listeners know, Tom, reading is one of my passions, and there's a genre that I've been following for a couple of years about EMP survival scenarios. Not all the time, but some of the time they get into emergency communications. The book I'm reading right now, one of the characters has been given the assignment to get a transceiver back in operation. So he's struggling with it. He really doesn't have the skills or the tools, and it's basically experimentation to see what works and what doesn't work. Having the skills and the equipment and the training before the event is and could be certainly a matter of life and death, couldn't it, Tom?
Well, that's absolutely correct. And I have always been prepared as far as communications goes by having well in advance all the test equipment needed, signal generators. I have RF millivoltmeters to measure the output of every RF stage in that equipment so it can be calibrated and adjusted properly, oscilloscopes, spectrum analyzers, things like this. You don't have to have all of this equipment, but I think every ham operator at a minimum should have a nice, even a digital voltmeter, but even more handy than that, believe it or not, is the old school analog voltmeter, and one of the most popular ones would be a Simpson 260. Everybody should, that's interested in any type of electronics or electrical type of work should have a Simpson 260. They're still made to this day, many variations of them over the years, but even the older ones are adequate to do the type of work that we're talking about. So it's very handy. And there's other equipment that you can get. Oscilloscope, I think, would be the next piece of test equipment. And, of course, you need solder and soldering irons and so on. You don't have to spend a ton of money. I mean, you can pick up a nice oscilloscope that will be adequate for working on ham radio equipment if you want to pursue that. And I recommend that you do this. But you can buy that oscilloscope for less than $100, a used one, a nice one, and a Simpson 260 voltmeter. a really nice one might be $150 at the most. I don't know what a new one costs, probably $250, something like that. I've seen them go for a lot less than that. They're typically found all the time on eBay, Craigslist, places like that. Some of the ham radio forums have classified ad sections, and you'll see them on there very frequently. And then at a minimum, though, you should purchase even a $20 digital voltmeter. That's very handy for just general purpose use, even around the house. If you have to repair an appliance or check a wall outlet, something like that, measure how much power, the voltage in the house. You'd be surprised how often, John, the transformer will go bad in the neighborhood and there's too low or too high of power in your house. That happened to me once, and the power coming in, the outlets were operating at nearly 150 volts. We're blowing light bulbs left and right. Oh, yeah, and it ended up being a shorted turn. I told the power company, and they didn't believe me, but I told them that there's a shorted turn in a transformer out by the road, up on the pole. And they said, no way. And it turned out that's what it was. In fact, when they came to check it, I could look at the transformer. You could see the heat waves coming off of it, like the way. Oh yeah, it was hot. It was so hot. They had to disconnect that thing, and they had to put a chain on it. They couldn't even touch it. It was so hot, and so they got that thing down and put the new one up, and all was well. They did compensate us a little bit for some of the. It didn't burn anything out other than popping light bulbs, so I kept all the burned out bulbs, and they gave us a credit for that. Well, so a voltmeter is very handy to have, and this test equipment. And then, of course, you need some basic tools, pliers, needle nose pliers, side cutters, things like that. And that's just, everybody should have that type of tools. Anyway.
I should, and I've got most of those things myself. Here's our break. The call number is 800-313-9443. J.R. Moore here. As most of you know, my regular listeners, I offer energy cleaners for sale at my website. If you don't have a clue what I'm talking about, go to my website, thelibertyman.com, educate yourself about these marvelous healing devices. We focus on pain mitigation and getting a great night's sleep. Arthritis pain, joint pain, back pain, doesn't matter. Keep in mind, I offer from me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do. Energy cleaners, $285, shipping included to American zip codes. You can educate yourself all about the energy cleaner right there at my website, the patent application, the wonderful testimonials. Be sure and check out the factory-made fitted mattress pads to go with the energy cleaner. Now, I offer from me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do. I have a toll-free order line, or you can order it right at my website at thelibertyman.com. The toll-free order line is 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the inter-shelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The inter-shelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient, and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at thelibertyman.com. right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday, the 12th of January. Quick reminder, if you want the highest quality hemp oil products, just go to my website at thelibertyman.com and check out the Canaway line of hemp oil product. I think you might be really delighted. We're visiting with Tom Berryhill. We're talking about emergency survival communications. And, Tom, we got a caller on hold here. We got Tony in North Dakota. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning there, John and Tom. I usually talk to you on Thursdays about the energy cleaner, but I am a ham radio operator, and I just wanted to let you know what we're doing locally up here. We do have many different nets, of course, that we operate, but one of them is unique, is that we do a 2-meter sideband net, vertically polarized, because some of the newer rigs that are out there have 2-meter sideband built in. It's kind of a lost portion of the ham radio. Not too many people operate it anymore, but we decided to bring it back just because there are times that maybe the repeaters might be down, and 2-meter sideband offers pretty good range, probably 50, 60 miles. I'm about 50 miles out of Fargo, so I'm kind of the guy out here everybody wants to talk to from Fargo, and they use a 2-meter sideband, which offers quite a long range and very good communication. Not quite as good as a repeater, but very comfortable speaking out to 50, 60 miles. So that's another portion of the thing you might, some of the operators might want to consider, especially part of local groups anyway. We probably got up to a dozen guys that get on Monday nights on the 2-meter sideband net. Just wanted to throw that out there. That's another aspect of things. I've had my license since 2012, and I'm an extra now, and I have an absolute blast playing around with HF, although it's a little down now because of sunspots. You guys have yourself a great day. Just wanted to throw that out there to you. Back there to you, John and Tom.
Thank you, Tony. Yep. We appreciate it. Roger that. It's a fun hobby. As hobbies go, it's really one of the less expensive ones compared to many other hobbies. I mean, how many guys are running around with a $20,000 bass boat, Tom?
Yeah, or I've seen guys with their HO train sets, and they have tens of thousands of dollars wrapped up in many years of hard work to get that thing set up the way they want. John, it can be very inexpensive. One of the discussions we had at your meetup there in Viburnum, I brought some equipment to show to everybody, and if you remember, I passed around, it was a plastic bag. It was an unbuilt kit. But you can buy these on eBay, and it's actually a small transceiver, and like everything, it comes from China. But that little kit of parts would be a Morse code transceiver that operates on the 40-meter ham band, 7 megahertz band, shortwave. I think it was about 1 watt. And I believe with shipping and all, I don't know how they do it. It was, I believe, it was $3 or $4. So you can get started as low as that if you don't want to spend a lot, and you'd have to learn Morse code to use it. Now, Tony talked about single sideband at 2 meters, and he's absolutely correct. A lot of the military aircraft uses single sideband because it's been proven to get through under the worst of conditions. It's single sideband is the same as AM, except the carrier wave isn't there, so that you have to have a special receiver to receive it. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of garbled sounds coming through your speaker, unless you have the proper type of receiver. But it is very effective for weak signal work, whereas FM, which is typically what most of the ham operators use on 2 meters and 70 centimeters, that's the 2 meter and 450 radio bands, most of that communications on those bands is by FM, and single sideband is used quite often, and you'd be surprised how much farther you can talk using that mode of transmissions. Now, on 6 meters, I've operated with a mobile unit on 6 meters, John, and I was able to talk from here in east central Missouri all the way up to a station. He was at his home, and he had an antenna on a tower, but I was talking to him as clear as we are right now on this broadcast, and he was right at the Missouri-Iowa border up in northern Missouri. It's crystal clear. And that was single sideband, but that was also on 6 meters.
Something that's fun to do, Tom, is when you're at a gathering of friends or family, is to bring an electronic digital voltmeter with you and show people what their own electricity is. It's kind of fun, isn't it?
Well, going to a break. Remind me, and I'll comment on that after we come back.
Here's our break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're continuing our energy cleaner promotion, which began August of 2016. In this promotion, you get to buy an energy cleaner, $70 off retail, and a mattress pad, 10% off retail. $200 of the purchase price of the energy cleaner goes to Republic Broadcasting. This is a great way to help get energy cleaners out to people who need them and have some financial issues to deal with. And, of course, a great way to support Republic Broadcasting. Here's what you do. Send in a postcard. My address is John Moore, P.O. Box 201, Davidsville, Missouri. We pick a postcard every 2 weeks. If your postcard is drawn, you get the chance to buy the energy cleaner, $70 off retail, and 10% off the mattress pads. Put your name and your address, your telephone number, and your email address on the postcard, and we wish you the best of luck. Thank you. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday, the 12th day of January. Seems like these Fridays roll around quicker each week, don't they, Tom?
Yeah, they sure do. One week rolls into the next.
And here we are, the second Friday of the year already. Well, ladies and gentlemen, my website is thelibertyman.com. That's thelibertyman.com. We're moving forward with our project to locate images of continents with new coastlines in TV shows and movies. We got, I believe, 16 or 17 this past year, 2017. Let's double it or triple it this year. If you find an image of a continent with new coastlines on a TV show or a movie, get that image to me, the screen capture. You get your choice of any of my 5 DVDs as a thank you. Also, my website, of course, is my home business. That's energy cleaners and the mattress pads that go with them. Everything's in stock, ready for immediate shipment. I just picked up a fresh batch of energy cleaners from Tom a couple of days ago. We got mattress pads in stock, ready for immediate shipment. So you get your order in using PayPal, MasterCard, Visa. It'll go out the next business day. PayPal, of course, is the most secure way to make any payment online. And PayPal now takes payments, by the way, if you live in the United States. MasterCard, Visa, like I said. If you need to send a check, just drop it in the mail, and you'll get your energy cleaner mattress pad as soon as I can get it shipped out. Keep in mind, we now are offering, as of 12 days ago, a 90-day money-back guarantee. So think about it. If you've got joint pain, arthritis pain, back pain, you need an energy cleaner. If somebody you care about has joint pain, arthritis pain, back pain, you need an energy cleaner. I just found out the wife of a friend of mine died from complications due to arthritis. It's unnecessary. When you got an energy cleaner, the pain is mitigated. So you can place your order right at my website at thelibertyman.com, or you can call my toll-free order line 24 hours a day. Here it is, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. And we're talking with Tom Berryhill about emergency survival communications. And, Tom, you got a follow-up on having fun at a gathering with a digital voltmeter.
Well, what I was going to say about that is so many people will talk about picking up that voltmeter probe with their fingers, and they get a reading, and they think that's coming from their body. And a little bit of it may be, John, but if you want to really surprise them, just go to the main breaker in the main breaker in the electrical panel for that house or that building and turn it off, and then see what kind of readings you get. The readings will go away, probably read almost nothing, because most of what you're reading there, your body's acting like an antenna and picking up that AC voltage, that stray voltage just floating around in the room. That goes to show you just how much those wires radiate.
So if you're out in the forest, away from any middle of a field, what would happen?
You'll pick up a lot less.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
it's still fun.
It's worth the try to do an experiment and just see what kind of readings you do get. get away from all power sources, and you'll read almost nothing.
Well, then that brings up the topic of earth batteries, because the earth is electrically charged also.
Yes, it is. And like I say, you will read something, but the voltage signal from your body, the actual voltage, is really, really low. So it takes a super sensitive voltmeter. To measure those types of things, I use what's called an electrometer. It's an extremely high impedance voltmeter. And I'll tell you how sensitive this thing is, John. You can put a probe on that, say I'll use maybe like a piece of coat hanger or something, and hook that up to the input, and then stand 2 feet away from it, and take a 9-volt transistor radio battery and just touch the positive point on that battery, and that meter will pick it up right through the air. Then touch the negative, and the needle will go back the other way, showing a negative voltage. There's a little bit of a lag there, but it will actually pick up that voltage right through the air. That's how sensitive that voltmeter is, and that's what it takes to measure those very low levels. You need that instrument called an electrometer. Mine is a Keithley. I can't remember the model number, and I'm not near it to tell you, but they can be purchased. I've seen the older analog types on eBay for $100 to $200. It's a very handy instrument to have if you're doing any type of biological experiments like that.
Yeah, it is. It is. Well, it's going to be, you don't start out getting all this equipment at once. You incrementally get, as you have a project, you get the equipment you need to take care of that project. Another project comes up, you get the more tools to take care of that one. And incrementally build up your inventory of tools and test equipment, right, Tom?
Oh, that's right. And I believe in purchasing good tools, estate sales, Craigslist ads, things like that. That's where you're going to find the really good tools. The older U.S.-made hand tools and things like that are really good to have. And many people will rush off to like Harbor Freight and buy these cheap Chinese tools. Some of them are not too bad, but most of them are junk. And I say buy the finest tools that you can afford. Then you only have to cry one time when you buy it, not every time you use it.
Yeah. Well, getting good. It's money well spent to get good quality tools, whatever the need might be, whether it's mechanical, plumbing, automotive, electronic. You always end up being grateful that you got the good quality ones in the end, don't you?
Oh, yeah. It's really important to have good tools and test equipment on hand, whether you're working on appliances around the home, just home repairs, garage door openers, things like that. If you have to work on your car, that voltmeter is really handy for all of that. At a minimum, a digital voltmeter. You get a pretty nice one for $20 or $25. Now they do. Now speaking of Harbor Freight, they do make some digital voltmeters that are actually pretty nice. I use one myself for general purpose. It was inexpensive enough to where it was about $22, I believe. And it's inexpensive enough, I don't care if I get a solder blob on it or I drop it and break it. It's cheap enough to just go get another one. And I have some better instruments also that I just keep for the more important work. But for your average use, those meters are really handy. And then, of course, the tools. I really find that garage sales and estate sales are some of the better places to obtain some of these older tools. Somebody bought them back in the 50s, 60s, 70s when they were still, the good old USA manufacturers made that equipment and those tools, and they're sitting around in garages and basements, and they can be picked up for very little money at estate sales, and you'll get many more years of use out of those tools.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It always pays off in the end. If you've got a question or comment about emergency communications, you're certainly welcome to give us a call at 800-313-9443. It was kind of funny. I heard Vince Finelli on his show a day or two ago the topic of radios came up, and Vince apparently wasn't sure that CB radio was even still around, and his guest had to give him a heads up real quick that CB is never went away. Of course, back in the 70s was the heyday of CB radio, wasn't it, Tom?
Well, it really was, and that's when it really, when they reduced the speed limits to 55 and all the trucking guys purchased the CB radios, and you had to have a license for it, and they issued a call sign and all that, but it finally got so out of hand, the FCC just could not control it any longer, and they just eliminated the need for a license, and you just buy the unit and get on there. They're still sold, they're still used, but John, if you tune into those CB channels, you don't hear as much as you used to. It's not as popular anymore because the cell phones have the cell phones have picked up the most of that traffic. I mean, it's so much easier to just call somebody. And anyway, it's they're still used, but not as popular. I guess the trucking guys still use them. I don't know. I never listened.
They do. I monitor Channel 19 CB when I'm on the road, and it saved me untold hours where I would get a heads up about a construction slowdown, an accident slowdown, give me time to exit the interstate highway and bypass it. And I couldn't tell. It's been dozens of times, Tom, where I've had that opportunity simply because I monitor Channel 19 on the CB radio, and I'm able to exit and get on the outer road. And I'm driving at a nice 50 miles an hour past the traffic that's lined up, stopped for sometimes 2, 3, 4, 5 miles at a time. And it's very satisfying to be able to do that, quite frankly.
Well, now that is a perfect application for a CB radio, and I agree. If you listen to what the truck drivers are talking about, you will get advanced information about the speed traps, the radar cops, any accidents, any kind of issue that's going on that road. You'll find out about it well in advance, and you can prepare accordingly. Get off the road, find an alternate route, service roads, whatever, and get out of the way. So, yes, it's very handy for that.
It is. And, of course, it just takes, I've done so many radio installs, I can do one pretty quickly in most motor vehicles. It's a simple process, not too much to it. Typically, from start to stop, the time you start searching for all the tools and the time you're done, less than 2 hours, typically not much more than an hour to get an install done. That looks nice, and it's presentable, and you won't be ashamed to show to somebody that you did this. Yeah. And these radios are very compact now. The modern CB radios take up very little space, don't they, Tom?
Yes, that's true, and the same for the ham units. The 2-meter and 450 or the dual band mobile units are quite small and relatively high power for their size. It's amazing. We didn't have anything like that back in the old days, and most of them have a built-in speaker. But my advice is when you install that radio, get an external speaker and get a good one. And some of the best speakers made, you can buy them on eBay, $5 or $10. And sometimes that even includes the shipping. Just get a used Motorola speaker. They're about 5 inches square, maybe a couple of inches thick. They come with a mounting bracket, and they're typically they all look about the same, but they were used on the two-way radio systems, and they're a black colored speaker, and it'll say Motorola on the face. There's a pretty long cable on there. You just solder a plug on there that fits your radio, plug it in, and usually the radio you buy will come with the plug that you need to hook up that external speaker. That makes a huge difference. And the thing to do is to install that speaker on the up under the dash, or on a good place to put it is on the kick panel on the passenger side, so it's facing you as the driver, and that sound will come right to your direction for reception, and it really improves the readability of the signal. And they're very loud. You can turn that radio up, and you can really hear that thing under all conditions.
Absolutely. Well, just get started. Find that local ham radio club. Start showing up at meetings. Start studying. And our new ham club, we're starting here in Osage Township and by Burnham. We will be having training every Friday just before movie night starts. So people are coming to movie night anyway. We have hot dogs and brats and popcorn and all kinds of soft drinks and coffee and so forth. So it'll be a combination training and social event where people can munch on their hot dogs and get some ham radio training at the same time, and make it a community event, a fun event, a social event, and a win-win situation for everybody, Tom.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to do it. And especially when there's a group working together, they can help each other. And like I said earlier, it's been simplified so much over the years that the test is relatively simple. And if you really just study, put some effort into it and read up on it and study, and the questions and the answers, there's pools of these questions and answers, and are actually public records. So the FCC publishes all of this, and I think somebody, even if they had good memorization skills, they could pass the test without knowing anything about it. All they'd have to do is memorize it, and there's been plenty of cases where that has taken place. But it's best to learn at least the basics, and you'll be able to pass that test without any trouble. I'd say a month to a month and a half, maybe 2 months at the most. You'll pass that test, and you'll be on the air and ready to go.
Absolutely. It's simple. It's straightforward. It's not really all that complex. There is some memorization involved. I know for myself, Tom, I had to be memorizing the frequencies because the engineering part fell into place for me. It was pretty easy for me to understand, but the frequencies was just basically pure memorization, which is not a big deal. It really isn't a big deal, is it?
No, it's not. As a matter of fact, those frequencies and the limits for the different license classes, they'll have frequency bands set aside. Within the ham band, they'll be split up by license class. There's a little bit of that, I believe, to this day, and you have to learn that. There's some legal requirements about the maximum power and things like that. You know, John, if I had to take the test today, I don't know if I'd pass it, because I'd have to brush up. Even after all these years of being a ham operator, I'd still have to brush up on some of the legal aspects of it, the frequency bands, because some of that's changed, and then the different power things, and then some of the new modes. There's digital modes that a lot of hams are using now, and there's quite a bit of interest in that. Some of the ham operators have their own email setups where they can tie in to the internet through the radio equipment and actually get emails. Now, it's not going to be private because the ham operators are not allowed to encrypt their transmissions. So anybody that tunes in would be able to read your messages, so you have to keep that in mind. But aside from that, if you just learn a little bit of the technical side of it, and then study up on the legal side of it, you'll be ready to take that test. And I really think anybody that gives it just a little bit of effort could pass it without any difficulty.
I agree. What we're doing here, ladies and gentlemen, we're attempting to encourage you and to promote this and to make it seem non-threatening, because it really is non-threatening, isn't it, Tom?
Oh, yeah, it's very simple. One of the most intimidating things, though, is the first time you get on the air, especially on HF, because you realize that your transmissions are going potentially worldwide, at least from one coast to the other. You know, we're here in Missouri.
Absolutely.
If you transmit, you're going to go coast to coast, and everybody's
Absolutely.
hearing it. So it is intimidating.
That's right. Here's our break. Stay tuned. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday, the 12th day of January. Talking to Tom Berryhill. This is emergency survival communications that we're talking about here. So if the whole purpose of this is to encourage people to get the skills, get the license, get the equipment, get the knowledge, so that when the next crisis comes up, you can help yourself, help the people you care about, help your community. Right, Tom?
That's right, John. You know, in some cases, there's people that have set up a network of friends and family and acquaintances and they all live relatively close to each other. In those cases, sometimes it's worthwhile to install a wired system, like an intercom. Something that I used to work on these things back in the 70s. They were called common talk paging systems. They had a handset, like a telephone handset, with a hook switch. You just hung the thing up, and there'd be 2 channels on there, and these were hardwired. And there was an amplifier. If you wanted to talk to somebody, you just pick up the handset and push a button, and it would allow you to page, and you would say, pick up on the red line or the green line or whatever the light colors were, and you could page the party you wanted to talk to, and they would just pick it up. A system like that is very simple to set up and install, and inexpensive as well. So keep that in mind. And now that is very private. Now somebody could tap into that, but it's very unlikely that any undesirable people would be able to tap into that, or even though it's installed. You could run wires up through trees overhead. Or you could, if you had the ability to trench it, you could do that and lay the lines underground and connect several buildings together with a system like this. It's very secure and very simple in its operation and use. So it's something to keep in mind. I'm a firm believer in wired systems like that. And at the same time, you could install alarm cabling to monitor the various buildings, and so it could be communications as well as alarm circuits and any kind of control equipment or anything like that you would need. Could all be by hard wire. Wireless isn't always the best way to go. Not always, but usually it's a lot simpler because you don't have to put the wires in. But I do like the hardwired units. I really do, especially for alarms.
Right. Well, our choice here at my location is U.S. Army issue field phones. They're simple. They're reliable. The current issue don't even need batteries, and they're dependable. And they don't cost a whole lot compared to the quality you get.
No, those are readily available. I see them on the surplus market. They work very well. So that's a good way to go. You're not going to have a huge investment, but you're going to have a very reliable system.
It lasts for decades, literally. Tom, thank you, sir. We'll be talking soon. Appreciate it.
Thank you, John.
Top of the hour break. We'll be back with Dr. Phil Myers. Stay tuned. All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. It's J.R. Moore here, our second hour on Friday, the 12th day of January. Proper tip of the day, I think every American, teenagers and older, should know how to operate all kinds of transportation, drive automobiles, whether they have an automatic or standard transmission, very basic stuff. Everybody should be able to drive a standard transmission automobile or a truck. Ride a bicycle, ride a motorcycle, ride an ATV, paddle a canoe, sail a sailboat, and yes, even get at least one flying lesson. At least one flying lesson. So that's your prepper tip of the day, some things to add to your list of things to do so that you can have these skills when you need them. And it can be fun, and it's always good to learn new skills, in my opinion. We have a patient waiting in the green room, my friend Dr. Phil Myers. Dr. Myers is my physician. He's a chiropractic physician living and working in my hometown, St. Louis, Missouri. If you want to get started with Dr. Myers and gain access to his base of knowledge, expertise, all you need to do is call his office, have that first private no-charge consultation. That's 878-6868. Let's continue, Doc. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning. We can't continue on anything until we start.
We can't, obviously. It's been a busy morning. What can I say? Well, you're changing. You're changing the focus of your practice from general wellness to emphasizing people becoming more youthful, aren't you, sir?
Absolutely, yeah. My focus is reverse aging with neuromuscular re-education. So everything that we do here is to support your body and your mind and your digestion and your spiritual connection to yourself. People say spiritual connection. It just can be just an awareness of like, okay, this is what my body, my mind, my intuition, my gut feeling is saying is going to be the most beneficial for me. And that, I mean, it's a trade that we all have the ability to tap into, but most of us have stayed so blinded by that ability, or that you can't trust it, or it's not worthwhile to really pay attention to. That deep internal belief structure of what you can be and what you are really doesn't get into people's minds much at all. And so the focus, one of the biggest focuses, is to help you see that about yourself, that, wow, I can do this. Wow, I am able to do this. And just slowly and surely helping you break those programs of incongruent belief structures that just really don't serve you much anymore. It could be anything. It's individual for each person.
It is. And we talk about this occasionally, Doctor. With allopathic medicine, it's basically you have this symptom, you get this prescription product, and it's a one-size-fits-all system that they've developed. If you have A, you get B. If you've got C, you get D. And it doesn't matter who you are, how old you are, your age, sex, weight, height. And obviously there's some exceptions, but what I'm describing is pretty much what happens pretty much all the time, isn't it, Doctor?
Well, what we're seeing is a huge transition of power. Is back in the late 1800s, when the American Medical Association came into existence, their sole purpose was to create a monopoly on healthcare, and that anybody or anything that spoke out against their belief structure, their dogma, was considered quackery, and they threw so many things out there of terms that made everybody scared of anything that wasn't their model. And then anything, like, for example, when they went after the chiropractors way back then for quote-unquote practicing medicine without a license, well, what were they basing that on? They were basing that on the American Medical Association's foothold on quote-unquote diagnosed diseased names. If you had flu or bronchitis or emphysema, those were terms that they put their stamp on, and anybody that said we help with that was quote-unquote practicing medicine, their version of it, and was subject to prosecution. And what they, in their process of doing that, what they did was completely and utterly annihilate the belief structure in our conscious collective that we can and do change and heal those particular symptomatology named diseases by our own right. And what the chiropractors were doing, or the osteopaths, or and the naturopaths, or anybody, the acupuncturists, anybody, and I'm not just saying this with the chiropractors, but that was the major lawsuits back in that day, is they were going against them, because what the other professions were saying is, your body heals itself, dude. Why are you making everybody believe that they have to follow your regimen, that they have no power to help themselves, and unless they follow your diagnosed name, your treatment procedure for that disease, which is either in your mind cut it out, or numb it, or put some biochemistry to change its appearance, then that doesn't make any sense. But that's what the American Medical Association in their dogma did, and it still has been playing all the way to this day. What's happening more and more and more now. It's been trickling in since like the 80s and the 90s, and definitely since the early 2000s, but especially now in late 2017, now in 2018, you're seeing a huge transition of power, that people are saying, wait a second, I can change my life. I can think differently. I am able to let go of these dogmas that have been ruled into people's consciousness, from my parents to my grandparents to my great-great-grandparents, that has become the family motto that I was, quote-unquote, programmed in. Wait a second. This doesn't work, and it's false, and it's not even true. So I'm changing, and the collective of the amount of people that it's hitting the numbers, and we're starting to see a huge shift in power. And the establishments like the AMA are freaking out. They're like, oh, crud. We were talking about this back in 2004 within, at least when I was in school for chiropractic, my chiropractic doctorate degree, we were talking about the Titanic sinking. Get off the Titanic. Seriously. Do not go onto the Titanic thinking that because one of the things about our profession that most people don't know is we have about 200 to 300 more hours of education in diagnosis. So one thing that happens within the chiropractic schooling, the naturopathic schooling, the osteopathic schooling, that's close to the AMA schoolings places, is that we learn their style, but then we also know the truth in how the body works, and actually working with the body, working with the mind, working with the digestion, the biochemistry, in how that it really works. And so people don't even realize that when you go see your chiropractor, you go see your naturopath or your osteopath, is their education, our education, my education, is even in terms of hours of study, more than your traditional allopathic physician. And then on top of it, we know how to actually help you regain the power of your own self, in teaching you how to do that. Now, you go to your individual practitioners, everybody's going to be a little different just based upon the nuance of human being, but that's why you then go search out for the ones that work well with you. Right. So, but people don't realize that, and that's a huge thing that needs to be, that people are now really realizing, like, oh my God, these other physicians, not AMA-guided physicians, wow, they're the ones that really know their stuff. They're the ones that are going to help me regain my power, because honestly, I'm so programmed into it, I really don't know where to start. And that's an okay thing.
It is okay. And people need to get comfortable with this and know that it's okay, and then move forward and get on the road to genuine health and healing, as opposed to covering up symptoms with pharmaceutical products.
Oh, absolutely. It's like here's a great example. Me being a massage therapist, I also hear everything, because it's funny when I'll have people coming to me for the first time from a massage therapy standpoint. They always describe their bodies in terms of their pain in their shoulders, their pain in their back, their pain in their neck, and their pain in like a joint or something like that. Or I just need to de-stress. And they know right away that they're talking about their mental stress. And so you would have your traditional massage therapist who still has the AMA type of mindset going in. Oh, well, there's that knot on in the shoulders. So, for example, that right-sided knot that's right at the when you grab your shoulders with your left hand across your body to grab your right trapezius at your shoulder, like, oh, wow, that's that tight knot. That part of knotting is part of your psychology and consciousness of feeling broken-hearted. Whereas if it's on the left side of the body, it's of feelings of emotions of betrayal. Now, who, what, where, when, and why, that's not significant in this conversation, but just know right side is always broken heart, left side is always betrayal. Now, you have your massage therapist digging into that nut and trying to let go of that protection that you've set up for, oh my God, I had my heart broken. I'm never going to allow that ever to happen again. So you put up a protection grid. Well, then there's your massage therapist trying to dig in through that protection grid. You ain't going to break that thing. It's like Fort Knox, man. And then the same thing on the left side. That protection grid of being betrayed, like, oh, I'm not gonna, your trust value goes down, your vulnerability goes down. Same thing with the right side. And there's that massage therapist trying to dig out this knot. It's like, oh my God, if you could just dig out that knot. And yeah, it feels good. The massage therapist is exhausted at the end, and you go out into the real world and see whoever broke your heart that looked like that other person, and there you go, that knot's right back again. Because what did you not do? You as a human being need to learn how to surrender, let go, and forgive within your own self why you have put that protection grid up there for that broken heart or for that betrayal that you have. Then guess what? You start doing that mental, emotional release work in your own work. Then guess what? You go to see your massage therapist again, and they look at that knot like, oh, my God, it's barely there. It's a little crunchy, but, oh, my God, it's like way less. Well, who did the work? You did. And then the massage therapist, when they're working on it, can help flow the energy from the nerves through the muscle systems and re-educate, neuromuscular re-education into the system so that your system completely and utterly lets go of what you have put in front of you to protect you from what you thought was going to be your the danger outside in front of you. And that's just giving your power away to something outside of you. And we do that so unconsciously. And one of the biggest reasons that we do it that way is that has been what has been taught for millennia. Like literally, if you look at all things, the one thing that's been taken out of all systems of mental emotional healing is the ability to truly surrender, truly let go, and truly and utterly forgive. And when I say forgiveness, I'm not talking about letting that person off the hook. because then you're still looking as if this, that, or the other person outside of me would just do this, that, or the other thing differently, then I would feel so much better. Well, then you're just giving all your power away to the outside world.
That's
and
right.
That's the same mindsets, and I don't say it this way, but it's the same exact mindset the American Medical Association has put out there to say you're disempowered. You're now subject to all these bacteria, all these funguses, all these viruses, all these molds that are out there in the world. They're your enemy. And we are going to protect you from them. What's that completely do? Puts you in a disempowered mindset according to their dogma. And guess what? We bought it. Hook, line, and sinker.
That's right. That's right. We get back from the break. We're going to have our health tip of the week. And stay tuned. We'll be right back. J.R. Moore here. It's taken 3 years before I could offer the inter-shelter domes for sale. During those 3 years, several different governments and militaries were taking all their production. The inter-shelter dome homes may be just what you've been looking for to provide affordable, energy-efficient, permanent, and attractive housing. These dome homes are prefabricated units that can be assembled in a few hours by 2 men with a ladder and simple hand tools. Check out the photos of these dome homes built in the Arctic, on tropical beaches, in suburban areas, and in forests. All the details, many photographs, and the pricing of the dome homes are listed on the left-hand side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. I think you'll find these homes are not only attractive, but they're energy efficient, and a bonus. You can disassemble them and reassemble them as many times as you feel you need to. Pretty great, huh? Something that's very, very unique. Check them out at my website at thelibertyman.com. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday, the 12th day of January. Yes, if you need the highest quality hemp oil, check out Canaway Hemp Oil Products at my website at thelibertyman.com. We're visiting with Dr. Phil Myers. If you want to get started with Dr. Myers, real simple, doesn't cost a penny. Set up that first private, no-charge telephone consultation. Call his office at 314-878-6868. Doctor, what's our health tip of the week going to be, sir?
Well, before I get to that, so we're doing these health tips of the week. We're sending all this information, and there's a lot of it. So what I highly recommend is when you're listening to these shows, go into John's archives at thelibertyman.com and re-listen to them. And then also post them to your Facebook and your Twitter accounts and your Instagram accounts to your friends and family so they also can benefit. Also, when you're hearing all this stuff, you want to hear more, following me on my Facebook and my Twitter and my Instagram accounts. It's PHI and then Wholeness, WHOLENESS. That's me on Facebook and on Instagram. You will be following some of the most state-of-the-art supplements, technologies, and information for health and wellness. And the health tip of the week is to realize that health and wellness is becoming a collective of your empowerment. So what I recommend is we're going to go through this slowly. and I kind of already said it in the show already, but we're going to go through it really slow. When you're looking at your empowerment versus a disempowerment, what the heck does that even mean? When we're talking about empowerment, what we're mentioning is when you're thinking a thought that if this person, this place, this thing, this overall event would just do X, Y, Z, like you have an expectation or a prediction that if your spouse or your friend or your boss or the bank or the bank account or if the federal government or if the establishments of dogma or the alien invasion that's going to come out or the chemtrails or anything that's outside of you, like your physical body, your physical mind, because all this stuff is inside your head, between your eyes and between your ears, behind your eyes and between your ears. Anything that you put on those things, that people, place, thing, event, if they would just do something that you're wanting or different or not do something that you're wanting or something different, then you would be affected in a certain way. You have completely and utterly given 100% of your power to that thing outside of you. And so the health tip of the day is to start recognizing that your thoughts do that more than you would ever really want them to. And I call that story. Because what it is, it's all a big story. And where is that story being created? Inside your head. Now, a part of this story is we blame, like, okay, well, my mom taught me that, or my dad taught me that, or my priest taught me that, my rabbi taught me that, or my friend down the street taught me that, or this was my experience, and I have plenty of evidence to show you that this is true, that if this person would have just done this, then I would have felt so much better. Story.
Here's our break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. We're continuing our Energy Cleaner promotion, which began August of 2016. In this promotion, you get to buy an Energy Cleaner, $70 off retail, and a mattress pad, 10% off retail. $200 of the purchase price of the Energy Cleaner goes to Republic Broadcasting. This is a great way to help get energy cleaners out to people who need them and have some financial issues to deal with. And, of course, a great way to support Republic Broadcasting. Here's what you do. Send in a postcard. My address is John Moore, P.O. Box 201, Davidsville, Missouri. We pick a postcard every 2 weeks. If your postcard is drawn, you get the chance to buy the Energy Cleaner, $70 off retail, and 10% off the mattress pads. Put your name and your address, your telephone number, and your email address on the postcard, and we wish you the best of luck. Thank you. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday, the 12th of January. My website is thelibertyman.com. There's a lot of information at my website. We're adding a new video. It should be up by 5 p.m. today. It's the remaining part of a film done in 1919 documenting the Armenian genocide where the Muslims murdered about 1.5 million Christians in 1915, 1916, 1917 time period. It was horrific. This is real history, and it's a Hollywood version of what happened during that period of time. Of course, also at my website, we have energy cleaners for sale. If you have arthritis pain, which is very debilitating, joint pain, back pain, the energy cleaner will most likely help. As of 12 days ago, we're now offering a 90-day money-back guarantee. So you're risking nothing when you get an energy cleaner. Only $285 shipping included to American zip codes. I do take PayPal, the most secure way to make any payment online. And if you live in the United States, you can spread out the payments over several months using PayPal these days. MasterCard, Visa, if you need to send me a check, just send me a check, and you'll get your energy cleaner and your mattress pad in the mail. Toll-free hour line 24 hours a day. Here it is, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Taking questions, calls, and comments for Dr. Phil Myers. If you want to get started with Dr. Myers, just call his office, set up that first private no-charge consultation at 314-878-6868. Let's continue, Doctor.
So that is the first step into recognizing how you have been duped within your own mind. And again, we're not, the whole process is to let go of blame. So people are going to do what they're going to do. The AMA did what they do. The chemtrail people are going to do what the chemtrail people are going to do. The water pollutant people are going to do what the water pollutant people do. The religious establishments are going to do what the religious establishments are going to do. The alien races are going to do what the alien races are going to do. It's all the same. And here's the thing. You cannot change them. You can't change anybody. And we know that you can't change anybody, right? All you can do is change yourself. So the first step is to just recognize that you have story, and we have a lot of them, and it's not about getting bogged down. I'm like, oh, my God, there's so many stories. Where do I keep track? How do I figure this out? What am I going to do about it? Oh, my God. The anxiety, fear, worry, part of that is just part of the secondary download that comes with story. It just is. So if you're having fear, anxiety, worry, judgment, resentment, and all the other stuff, all that is a secondary download to story. Like, oh, my God, if that just doesn't happen, then what's going to happen? Oh, my God, if this doesn't happen, then this is going to happen. Well, I have to do this in order for that to happen. If I do this, then that should happen. But if that doesn't happen, but if this does happen, then I'll feel so much better. And this is what the mind does. It's going 1 billion miles an hour, faster than you can ever catch it. So how do you catch it? Catch story in its tracks. Once you catch story in its tracks, all you say is stop. And take a deep, long breath. They stop. Like literally, you have to say the word, sometimes out loud, stop. And then recognize where you are in that present moment. We call that grounding. When people talk about, oh, you need to be more grounded, what they're saying is to be present. Because when you're present, and you've seen the memes, you can't be in the past and you can't be in the future, you got to be in the present. Well, they're absolutely right. Don't take for the granted that it's now coming out in the mainstream and people are trying to just throw these catchphrases out everywhere. What they're saying, to be grounded, to be present, is to recognize that you're exactly where you're supposed to be right now, and it's not a catchphrase when you hear that you literally are, everyone right now is exactly where they're supposed to be. The only reason that you believe you're not is because of story, living a past experience of a projected future that you think or do not want to happen based upon what you think this, that, or the other person outside of you needs to do or not do, so that you, yourself, can experience a world in a different way. This tool right here, and like I said, I recommend listening to this podcast again and again and again and again and again, and then listen to it again until it is so ingrained in your head. Because remember, you're reprogramming neuromuscular programs. Any thought that you have, anything that you learn from conception to 6 years old, and then built upon your experiences from 6 to the present moment, has programmed you, rightfully so, because that's how the neurology works. And here's the thing, you're being empowered right now because you're learning the tool that the establishments know. They know how to manipulate us, and they've been doing it for years. Well, you know what, people? This is their tool that they've been using against you to program you to believe that you are a disempowered being, that you're like John's the barefoot peasant and incapable of making sound decisions on your own unless you are for them. Period. So this is the tool that is the complete antidote to anything and everything you want to deprogram from programs that you see not fit for your life. And you want to know what all of those unfit programs are? Any program that says that this, that, or the other person needs to do this, that, or the other for me to be this. Period. Start with that tool, and I guarantee you your life will start being completely and utterly way different than you can't even imagine what your life would be like, because your imagination is only playing on the past and on a projected future based on a disempowered belief structure. So right now, your right brain, creative brain, can't even think outside of this box. So do you want to start thinking outside of the box of story? Recognize that you live in a storyland. We do. You live in so much story. I've been doing this for years, and I catch myself living in story daily. First thing you wake up in the morning, I do meditation to get my mind set on reality, on presence. And throughout the day, I'm continually saying certain phrases to keep myself in present moment. And then at the evening, I go through another meditation and do a gratitude of what I'm grateful for. Now, here's the thing, and I've mentioned meditation a couple of times, that I can just hear the wailing and grinding of teeth. Nobody that ever starts meditation is good at it. Nobody. So if you're afraid, like, well, I don't know how to meditate, I can't meditate, well, how long is he wanting me to meditate for? Do I have to meditate for a minute? Do I have to meditate for 30 minutes? How long do I have to meditate for? Do I have to meditate for my entire life? Oh, my God, I can't even imagine this. Oh, my God. Meditation is a tool. It's a process, and I can tell you no one's good at it. And if you say you've been doing it for XYZ many years, great. I'm so happy for you. Continue. Because if you stop, then you're going to go right back into storyland. Meditation, what is meditation? Meditation is the ability to not live a projected past and not live a past experience into a projected future, and living in the present moment, subtracted from story. That is the essence of meditation. And in meditation, you can start doing this. And like I said, even the best of us, Tuesday, I had a day here. I was so many things, money, job, finances, and career all day long. Taking care of other people, taking care of myself. I went to my yoga class at the end of the day at 7 o'clock at night, and it took me almost 15 minutes of the hour class to recognize my brain was still running 1 billion miles an hour in story. And I was like, okay, now I can slow it down. Now, hey, that was pretty cool. It only took me 15 minutes to recognize it. Whereas in my past, I know from experience that story could have been running a day, a week, a month, and a year. But now you're going to start catching these things sooner. And the more you start catching story, and the more you start surrendering and letting go and what we call forgiving, and which is first, recognize story, say stop, breathe, and recognizing where you are in the present moment. From a linear standpoint, that's pretty much how it works. From a logical left-brainer, I'm living in story, got it. Stop, got it. Breathe, got it. Where am I? Oh, I'm sitting in a chair talking on the phone. Got it. There, you just meditated.
It's simpler than people think, isn't it, Doctor?
Oh, it's so simple. And like I said, and I'm explaining it to my left brain logical people. My right brain people are saying, dude, that's really complex. But for a left brain logical person, that is what needs to be heard. And so the right brainers, when it comes to meditation and letting go of the box and letting go of what has been said and what has been concretely put in front of you, right brainers are pretty good at surrendering that. But the right brain thinker needs to recognize that they can put this finite idea into actuality, and just because it's finite and just because it is in a concrete format does not mean that you're stuck in doing it that way. Like, for example, the type of yoga that I like to participate in, because I'm a right brain thinker. If anybody really knows me and anybody's literally listening, I'm a right brainer all day long. But for me, I need that structured system because my life lives in such a creative tornado of what would be considered chaos, but not chaos in terms of randomness, but chaos in terms of a centeredness. I thrive really well when I live in when I put in an environment concrete, finite boundaries. And when I have concrete, finite boundaries in my life, oh my Lord. And who is this Lord I'm talking about? That's a joke. Oh my God, it's so much easier for me to settle in. And so, for example, the yoga that I do, it's the same moves all the time. It's the same sequence. It's the same flow all the time. Because what's that do? I don't have to worry or think about what's the next position, what's the next posture. all I need to do is just continue focusing on my breath, noticing I'm in the present moment, and if I recognize my mind wandering, it's so much easier for me to let go because the class itself is designed to keep structure intact. So for your left brainers, having to think logically helps, but for your right brainers, having some finite boundaries is also very helpful. And that creates what we call a balanced mind.
And having a balanced mind helps everything else work out, doesn't it, sir?
Oh, amen. All day long. Because then you can think outside the box and then put that chaotic centeredness into a finite little piece of space. And then you can take that finite little piece of space and break it apart and throw it into chaos and create something completely new. Like, for example, I'll go back to yoga again because it's just a really good example because it has some physicality to it. Downward dog, where your hands are on the floor and your heels are on the floor and you got like this pyramid-looking thing that your back and your spine are doing. Now, that is a finite move. Now, within that finite move, there are a trillion, billion, infinite possibilities of breath, movement, and expression. Which one's right? None of them. Downward dog is downward dog, and it will never not be downward dog. But if you watch 70 people in a class doing downward dog, and if all 70 people are only paying attention to their own self in their own present moment and not, what's that person do? Oh, my God, they're doing it so much better than me. Or then that's just judgment. That's just story. And you just gave your power away.
That's right. Here's our break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday, the 12th of January. One more time, real easy to get started. Just call Dr. Phil's office. Set up that first private no-charge consultation at 314-878-6868. Got about 3 minutes here, Doctor.
So the health tip of the week is to recognize story. When you recognize story, you recognize that you've been giving your power away to something outside of yourself, and that when you recognize that you've been giving your power outside of yourself, you can then say stop. And when you say stop, you then can take a breath. And when you take that breath, you recognize when you're in your present moment. And then just continue staying in a consciousness of present moment. Now, here's the thing. You're going to lose it in about a second or two. That's okay. Like I said, no one is good at meditation when they first start meditating. Don't get disgruntled. Set an alarm on your phone for every hour to at least to catch yourself. Say, okay, let me get into presence. Let me just recognize, I don't have to be in the past. I don't have to be in the projected future. I am right now. And you'll recognize, oh, my God, I've been living in worry for like the past hour. Oh, my God, I've been living in judgment and resentment for the past hour. But here, at least guess what now? At least now, every hour, you stop it. And so it no longer has momentum to continue creating a stress response on, or your body no longer is creating that stress response, that resistance, that high cortisol, that higher insulin resistance, that higher blood sugar imbalance, and that lower growth hormone for growth and potential. When you're living in story, those things get shut down so quickly. So just that's the health tip of the week, to really start recognizing this ability within yourself and use 2018 to be way more connected this year than you were last year. So when 2019 hits, you're so far ahead of the game. 2019 is going to be an amazing year because 2018 was an amazing year. It's because you made it that way, not because the year was a certain way, which then gave you some type of superpower. You did it for yourself.
Well, this is people's heads up. They're getting the knowledge, they're getting the information they need to get in contact with you, Doctor, and really move forward to have the happy, full, fun, productive life that we all want to have, right, Doctor?
Amen. You deserve it. Go for it.
Absolutely. Well, Doctor, we're pretty much out of time here. I don't want to be cut off by the music. I want to thank you for being with us as always, and look forward to having you back next Friday.
Talk to you then. Have a great week.
Okay, you too, sir. All right, it's been a fun week, and we got a weekend coming up. A good time to recharge your batteries, maybe start a new skill, and so forth. So in the meantime, get your medical supplies, your energy cleaner, your essential oils now while you can, your firearms ammunition. Never, ever give up your guns. Please do have a fun, safe, productive day and weekend, and God bless America.